National League time for August 6th through August 12th. I'm going to get started with the NL West as the race between the three-way race between the Giants, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks continue. I'm going to get started with the Giants as they have a huge series against the Cardinals, a series of the past two World Series champions. Giants got lit up. Matt Cain didn't do so hot in the first game. They got lit up 8-2, and then the Giants followed up with a win. The win the next day with 4-2. Barry Zito, who has been struggling of late, ended up pulling away with the win. And then the Giants absolutely slaughtered the Cardinals, which was on TV on Wednesday, 15-0. And Cardinals just look out of sync, and they were just hoping for the next day. And then Adam Wainwright pitched great in the next game for the Cardinals as they beat the Giants on a count of 3-1. And they finally slowed. They weren't allowing 15 runs in that game as Beltran home run make it 2-0, and they never looked back. So it was a 2-2 split. It is what it was for the Giants. It was a tough series on the road. They could have probably won Thursday, but their hitting wasn't on track. But they still look pretty good. I mean, it's a 2-2 split. That's not too bad. They got out of there. They got out of it okay, as good as they could anyway. So that's that. And then after losing the first game against the Rockies, after that, the Giants lost 3-0 in the first game against the Rockies. They ended up blowing out the They ended up blowing them out the next day, 9-3, and then winning 9-6. So they ended up taking 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. Although they were down 6-4 in the bottom of the 8th until Hunter Pence finally hits a home run for the Giants. He registered his first as a member of San Francisco, and they would eventually cruise. It was a 3-run home run, might I add, and it was a 9, and they ended up cruising to a 9-6 victory. So they took 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. And overall, very, very good week for the Giants. They're still in first place because the Dodgers almost got swept by the Rockies, but they still lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. Excuse me. Dodgers. It's the inconsistency once again, as I can see. But they took 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins as Hanley Ramirez makes his spectacular return to Miami as a member of the Dodgers. Kershaw picked up the first win, but then the Marlins got, I guess, a little bit of revenge, so to speak. They won 7-3. It was a feel-good game. But then the Dodgers pulled away a 5-0 win today as Capano got his 11th win of the season. The Dodgers ended up going 3-3 this week as the Giants went 4-3. So the Giants ended up gaining, I believe, a half game. A half game. As a result, the Giants are still 1 game ahead of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Dodgers at the end of the week are still 2.5 games back from wild card. And both teams have really tough series at the beginning of the week. Giants had to play the first place NL East Nationals at the beginning of the week. Lucky for the Giants is at home, but still, that's still going to be a very tough series, whether you want to look at it like that or not. And then the Dodgers have to go to Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates in a 4-game series before taking on the Braves in a 3-game series. So the Dodgers have a little bit of a tougher week. I don't know how their series against Pittsburgh is going to be. I will say it'd be a split, but you never know. You never know which Dodger team is going to show up, and that seems to be like the kiss tail story of the season for the Dodgers. Even when they acquired Hanley, even when Matt Kemp was out early in the season, it's still a never-ending cycle for them. As for the Giants, I think they're going to be okay. I want to get along to the Diamondbacks as well. They had 2 tough series. They ended up splitting with the Pirates, losing 4-0 the first game, crushing them the second game 10-4, and then the Diamondbacks just couldn't pull it off the third game. They lost 7-6, and then Joe Saunders ended up pulling away with a win on Thursday as they won 6-3. So they split with the Pirates, but then they got crushed the first game against the Nationals, lost the second game by 1. And then the Diamondbacks finally beat the Nationals 7-4 today. So they split with the Pirates 2-2, and they lost, and they only won 1 out of 3 against the Nationals. So the Diamondbacks, they had a tough week. They made it out not as good as one would hope, but There's now 5 games out of first place and 6.5 back from wild card. They took a little bit of a step back, but as you can see, they had a tough schedule, and it's going to get a little bit tougher as they have a 3-game series coming up against the Cardinals at St. Louis before taking on the Astros. So at the end of the week, the Giants are still the top dog in the West, and I think it's going to stay that way at the end of the week. Just my opinion. I want to get to this NL Central now with the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, they had a fairly easy series against the Brewers, one would think, but they got swept. They got swept. 6-3, 3-1, and 3-2. How do you explain? I mean, the offense wasn't on for one thing, but how do you explain this? Like, as well as they've been playing, and they had a huge series win against the Pirates, but they got swept. And then they lost 5-3 to the Cubs on Thursday, which at that point they were on a 5-game losing streak. And then the offense started hitting again, at least on Friday anyway, as they won 10-8, and then they won 4-2 on Saturday, and they shut out the Cubs today 3-0. So they took 3 out of 4 against the Cubs, but still, getting swept by the Brewers is unacceptable. I mean, they're still pretty good. They're still they're ending up still 4.5 games ahead of the Pittsburgh Pirates, but they could be up a lot more. But they gone slipped up, and it's not. If you want to stay in first place, you got to stay consistent. But I mean, but the Reds are still in good shape, I think. But that's still like a big shock to me, in my opinion. The Pirates, as I mentioned before, they split with the Diamondbacks 2-2, but then they lost 2 out of 3 against the Padres. So I mean, that's kind of a concerning sign, especially when they lose at home to the Padres. They lost 9-8 and 5-0 before finally pulling away an 11-5 victory today. But the Pirates still got a little bit ways to go if they want to win the division, but they're still in a wild card spot, though. I mean, they're still looking pretty good in terms of making the playoffs, but it's still a little bit dicey as they're winning the division hopes. Because I think it's better for them to win a division than have a 1-game playoff. Of course, that's most teams, but I mean, they got AJ Burnett, but I mean, to be their ace if they're forced into that, but I think it's better for the Pirates, in my opinion, to win the division than to hold out and try to win that 1-game series, because it's going to be tough for them. And now we get to the St. Louis Cardinals. As I mentioned before, they split with the San Francisco Giants, who is first place in the NL West, 2-2. I think the Cardinals they're making strides. They're trying to get back in the race, but they're only 2.5 games out of the wild card. It's still not looking too bad for the Cardinals. They're starting to get back together. But I still feel like they could have done a little bit more in their weekend series, because they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. They lost 3-1 on Friday. They won 4-1 on Saturday, giving Westbrook his 12th win of the season. But then they couldn't pull away a win as they lose 8-7 in the final 11 innings, thanks to a meltdown by the bullpen once again. That's been a concern for the Cardinals, as Juan Pierre gets an 11th inning RBI. And the Cardinals, they had a chance, but I mean, it seems like they keep losing. But I think the Cardinals will be okay. I think they'll still be in the run the longer. Will they make it and win the wild card spot from one of these teams, whether it be the Pirates or the Braves? That's another thing to be seen. I want to get to the NL East now. The NL East leading Washington Nationals, as they're still looking really, really good. As I mentioned before, they took 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks. I thought that was very huge for them. And Steven Strasburg looked good once again. They're still thinking about shutting him down, but I think he's still looking pretty good. He's returning to form. And they also swept the Astros, winning the first 3 games by 1, and including one of the games, the second game, the Tuesday game, when they won 3-2 in the 12th inning. An amazing grab by the left fielder of the Nationals. It made top 10. It probably should have been number 1. But the Nationals look really good, and they swept the Astros. So they took 6 out of 7 games they played this week. So they're still looking in good shape as they're 4.5 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves, who were once on a pretty big winning streak themselves, as they just capped off a game against the Mets. They did lose today, but despite a furious comeback, they were down 6-1 by the ninth inning, drove in 4 runs before Jason Hayward struck out swinging, losing 6-5. But they took the other 2 games against the Mets, so that was good. They also took 2 out of 3 against the Phillies, so overall, pretty good week for the Braves. I mean, they're still looking good, and they got a 4-game series against the Padres, as well as a 3-game series against the Dodgers this week. That's another series that I think is going to be watched with very close eyes. So maybe I'll look out for that one. But that pretty much about wraps it up. I mean, the series to watch for, I believe, is of course the Giants Nationals. That's going to be a very tough series. And I also believe the Dodgers and the Braves are also going to be a very intriguing series. So those will be my 2 series to watch very close attention to. As well as, I would also say the Diamondbacks and Cardinals as well. That's going to be a very good series in terms of wildcard implications, among other things. But that about wraps it up for my National League report. Be sure to tune in next Sunday. I am out.